So I'm here with Phil, who's just completed his program with me, and he's agreed to speak to us and sort of go through things. So, Phil, do you want to introduce yourself for anyone watching?
Hi, yes, I'm Phil, 51 years old, um, work in recruitment. So done recruitment for a long time, which has meant basically being sat at a desk most of the time for a long time, about 20 years. Um, I I've always been fairly active, done a lot of swimming and cycling over the years. But I think I noticed that my weight was climbing and climbing and climbing over the years, to the point where
We're just losing you, Phil. There you are, you're back.
yeah, I know. Yeah, yeah. To the point where I went to the doctors and they did a few checks, and I was over 15 stone for the first time in my life, and that was a bit of a shock. Because even though I knew it was climbing, I in my head I would never get that heavy. And so what I've realised is that I've always been, I suppose, as a lot of guys are, very food focused. I did certainly did spend a lot of time thinking about the next meal.
Hmm.
I suppose in a way, I do still spend a lot of time thinking about the next meal, but that because I'm now doing intermittent fasting, which means my next meal isn't happening first thing in the morning. Um, but it's also um, eh, trying to be more conscious with it. I've now realised how much I actually really enjoy salad. So now I find myself waking up in the morning and thinking, hang on, I've got salad in about 4 hours' time," which does sound a bit odd, especially to me, because that, 6 months ago, that is never something I would ever have thought I would have said. Um,
Okay, let's just break it down then. So, when you just going back to what you said, so you went to the obviously you were over 15 stone. How did it make you feel at the time? Like, were you worried? Were you
I,
shocked?
I was worried, yeah, because um, I've had high blood pressure since 2015, and being overweight, well, it actually they actually increased my blood pressure medication because my blood pressure was no longer being controlled by the current medication due to the extra weight that I put on. Um, and I have had a history of cancer, and I thought all of that combined, plus the fact that I've got a 2 year old,
Hmm.
um, I wanted to make sure I'm still around for when she becomes an adult. And so I thought something needs to change. Something needs to change. The weight, some weight needs to start coming off. Um, Otherwise, I do risk a heart attack. I do risk a stroke. I do risk a reoccurrence of cancer. So yeah, that's where it all started.
Did you try anything? Obviously, before we spoke, had you tried anything to get on top of the weight yourself?
I tried doing more exercise, but what I've realized now is that the problem wasn't the exercise. The problem was that I was eating too much.
Hmm.
I was intaking too much food. And that's why. So when I was doing the exercise, it was never enough to burn off the excessive amount of food that I was eating. Um, so yeah, so that's why I spoke to my brother who was already doing intermittent fasting, and I thought, yeah, maybe this is a good way to start, because at least it is just reducing the food that I'm intaking every day.
Mhm. Yeah, it's simple, isn't it? Simple, it's sensible, and it doesn't
Mm,
suit everyone. But if it suits you, happy days. It's
yeah.
you cut those calories out of your day, haven't you?
Yes. Yeah. Definitely.
So when we first spoke, then did you have any sort of concerns or worries about joining the program? What were your thoughts?
No, not at all. No, no. I honestly thought whatever whatever can help here can is going to help, and it's going to be more effective than doing it on my own. Because I knew with my love of food that that the goal of the main goal here, or the main method of losing the weight, would be to reduce the food, or at least uh, amend the food intake. And I thought, I know that my willpower alone is not going to be enough to do this. So no, I was confident that actually with you and a group of guys in a similar position there to talk to about it all, I was confident that we could make it work.
So you mentioned food a few times, and obviously you mentioned looking forward to your salad. So just so we can get across how you eat and what sort of stuff you're eating. Are you on like rabbit food? Are you on that sort of diet? Like, what does your diet generally look like?
No, well, I mean, at work, um, at my desk, I'm having an Asda pasta salad at least 3 times a week, generally 3 times a week, in all honesty. I on the fourth day, I tend to have a baguette with meat and salad. Um, and then Friday is when it starts to change. um, Friday because it, as I say, I've always in my head looked at Friday as the weekend and it's a treat and it's we can look forward to it all week. Um, in the evenings, it's very much more balanced. There's a lot more vegetables to it. It's generally a meat or a fish, some carbs, and more vegetables. There's now more vegetables instead of carbs on the plate.
Hmm.
So it's yeah. I mean, I think deep down I knew what I needed to do long before we spoke, but I suppose I don't know. You gave me more of a reason to want to do it.
I think it is uncomfortable, isn't it? When you think about actually, I enjoy my food, I like my food, and that's the bit that I feel like I'm going to have to take away. Whereas
Mm,
actually, I would, without sort of sharing up your food diary and going through that, I think
yeah,
you have balanced it out, and that's the key, isn't it? You've balanced it out so
yeah,
you can still enjoy it because you've still had fish and chips, you've had Domino's, you still had kebabs in
yeah,
there, curries, that sort of thing. But
yeah,
it's not every day, and it's balanced out, isn't it? And you've
yeah.
been steadily losing weight doing that.
I've realised that it's what you do most of the time that counts. And as long as you're doing the right thing most of the time, then you can get away with naughty days, as you might want to call them.
Yeah, maybe. What's how do you feel then? Now you've gone through the process, how do you feel? I know obviously you're not a finished product as it were, but you've got the
No.
process in place. But how do you feel in yourself?
Yeah, feel happy. I feel happy with it. It's I had no real idea in my mind about how it was going to go. My thinking was, well, hopefully, talking to Chris and these guys, hopefully, then we can lose some weight. And it was more consistent than I thought it would have been. But I guess that was because my eating became a lot more consistent than it was. So I suppose it's not a magic trick, is it? But no. So I feel it's made me feel happy that I know I can do it. So this is why I know I can do it going forward.
Oh, awesome. So what would you say then if someone's watching this, they're sort of on the fence about speaking to me, they know they need to do something, but they're just not quite sure, what would you say to them?
Definitely give it a try. Got to be worth a try. As I say, if you really want to actually lose the weight, then you will do it. So you will do it, because the hints and the tips and everything that is needed is there. As I say, you've got me thinking a whole new way that I never would have thought. Like, for example, I've come home tonight, and often when I come home, the first step always was, right, let's start tea for the three of us. And the thought of doing any exercise at that point, I felt genuinely guilty about it. And I would use that as a reason not to do it. Now, come home, and the first thing I say to the missus is, just going up having a session on the bike. And I'm not asking her, and I'm not feeling guilty about it either. And I love that. The fact that I know it's what's going to be best for me. And um I know it works because it has worked up to this point. So I'd say that you've definitely got it. If you know you need to lose the weight and you really want to lose the weight, do it. Definitely worth it.
I think that's the key, isn't it? You've got to want to do it. You've got to have a
Of course
reason
you do.
for doing it. Obviously, you've had health issues in the past. You had some more health issues, and you've got a young daughter, haven't you, that you want to see grow up. That's a
Yeah,
massive reason, isn't it?
of course it is. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Anything
Mm.
else you want to run through, or do you think we've covered it?
I think we've covered it. Nothing else I can think of.
Yeah. Was it straightforward, enjoyable?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I must admit, I wasn't sure. First of all, before the very first group call, I wasn't quite sure. I thought, hang on, is this not going to be a bit weird? But do you know what? No, it actually wasn't. And what I love listening to other guys, and you realise that a lot of guys are all going through the same issues and the same questions and the same things. And when you hear somebody say something that you've also been thinking that week, and you realize actually, no, we're all part of the group, and we can definitely identify with what everyone else is going through.
And I like that group dynamic. I've had that before when I've
Mm,
had coaching where I've not had a question, and then Dave in the corner's piped up and he's got a question. I think that's a really good question. And then I sit
yeah,
and listen and I learn from it as well. And that's the
yeah,
sort of, that's what I was trying to bring together with the group of guys. And
yeah.
obviously the program's still moving forward,
Mm.
unfortunately, without you in it
Yeah,
now. But
I'm sure you guys will be fine without me in it.
I'm sure we'll manage. I'm sure we will. But I will miss seeing those dominoes on the weekend. So
I'll have to track down the numbers for some of the other guys, and yeah, get them to start ordering Dominoes and kebabs. Yeah,
sounds good to me. Awesome. Well, look, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I do genuinely mean it, not just because we're obviously recording
yeah,
this and having this interview,
yeah,
but generally you just got on with things. You always showed up. You were honest when things didn't go well, which to be honest was rare because you were quite steady and consistent. But when it didn't quite go to plan,
yeah,
you turned up. And I do
yeah,
think you were equipped for the future. You know what you're doing. Just keep
yeah.
doing it. And when those weeks come along, just keep doing it. Follow the process.
Great. And as I said before, looking back now, I am very confident that I would not have managed this if I hadn't joined the group. So, again, it's thanks to you, and keep up your good work.
Yeah, I appreciate it. How much did you lose then?
It £17.
You mentioned
So
some
far,
You
so
mentioned
far,
some
I think
inches
it.
around the middle as well. How many inches did that equate to?
Yeah, 4 inches dropped from a 38 waist to a 34 waist.
Wow,
So
awesome. Well, look, it's been a pleasure, Phil. Thank you very much.
yeah,
Speak to you
it
soon.
has. And you never know, I may speak to you again.
Awesome. See you in a bit, buddy. Bye.
Cheers, thanks, Chris.